Welcome to Books, Blush, and Brain Rot, a little series that I want to do on here so that I can word vomit the book that I just finished to someone. I like to absorb books very quickly, and then I like to dissect them top to bottom. The book I just read was We Used to Live Here by Kliewer. Spoilers ahead, I'm going to talk about the ending. I've got our main character Eve, her partner Charlie. They are, I think, like early 30s couple, house flippers. They have a rescue dog named Shiloh who is very untrusting of strangers. They move into this house in the middle of nowhere on top of a mountain. It sounds like a summit. Chapter fucking 1. Eve's partner Charlie is in town getting liquor. Eve, I relate to Eve in the beginning because she seems to suffer with really bad anxiety, right? Eve in the beginning is a little stressed because she is home alone. There's a knock on the door and she's like, great. Personally, I'm the kind of person that if someone knocks on the door, I'm hiding. It's this family, Thomas, Paige, and their 3 kids, Kai, Newton, and Jenny. Thomas is basically like, hey girl, so I used to live here. This is my childhood home. Thomas is like, I was hoping that me and my kids could take a look around. She has an internal voice, and the internal voice is, you know those monkeys? The best one I can think of as an example is the Grinch, when he puts his head in between the symbols of the monkey and he's like, play monkey, play. You know, she had a toy like that when she was a child, but hers was a little deranged. The fur wasn't quite right. Like, it was almost like a defective one, and it was kidnapped when she was a child. That was like her favorite toy. Her parents could never find her another one. I guess in order to kind of like, maintain her own sanity, because she's kind of calmed down her anxieties, especially with Charlie and Shiloh, she put a face to her anxiety. The monkey's name is Mo. Periodically throughout, we will refer to Mo because Mo stays a very active figure, like right here in her head, and kind of guides her through the stuff that she ends up encountering. In my head, Thomas kind of sounds like 1950s dad, like with his suit, like, honey, I'm home. Like, Mo tells her, girl, no, don't let them in. She ends up letting them in anyways. When you're reading the book, you're getting excerpts of a documentary, like case file kind of thing. We're getting that in between the stories. A couple of those clips tell us about like wandering people in the woods that didn't know who they were. We get one about the monkey, like someone trying to find it, and people kind of talking about Mandela effects, like, oh, that monkey never existed, blah, blah, blah. So back to the moment. They're looking around, they're being relatively normal. And the wife, Paige, she kind of sounds like a bitch. They're touring, and Eve kind of follows. They go into what Thomas says is his sister's bedroom. And at that point, he kind of is a little hesitant, and he like gives off a weird energy that makes Eve kind of be like, I'm gonna give you some privacy. So the family comes back downstairs. When they finally go to leave, before Charlie gets home, in the foyer, and then they realize Jenny, the little girl, is missing. Thomas goes, oh, she always does this. She's playing spontaneous hide and seek. Thomas and Eve go to look for her in the basement. Eve follows a trail of ants. The ants are like all over this wardrobe or something, and it's creepy and it's weird. She then kind of turns a corner and sees Thomas just standing there. I'm gonna show you how it was described that he was standing there. Pretend that my mirror is the flashlight, and like he's standing there like this, frozen. So she calls his name like 3 times and he doesn't respond, and she's like, okay. Goes up to him, and then he like snaps out of it. She's like, you were just like zonked. And he's like, really? Like, oh, it's just because I'm hard of hearing these days. He goes, oh, I found Jenny in this little crack, but she didn't want to come out. And he's like, oh, if you try to get her, she'll bite you. And Eve is like, what the fuck? He goes, oh, we just have to wait it out. I was already hesitant to let this family in my fucking house. Now their little girl is in the basement, which by the way is like, there's tools everywhere, there's nails everywhere, there's ants, and she's just in the walls. Like, okay. Back upstairs, they explain the situation to the family, and they all just kind of like start to, wait it out. Charlie comes home. They all just like start casually talking, and Charlie invites them to stay for dinner. The parents say yes. And I forgot to mention, right before they're about to leave, before Jenny played hide and seek, Thomas went to say to Eve, when his family was out of earshot, have you noticed anything weird happening? But he got cut off. Family's having dinner. All of a sudden, she comes upstairs and she's screaming, sorry, freaking the fuck out, right? She left her pen downstairs in the basement. She wants it back. They're like, no, Jenny, I'll mail it back to you. Get the fuck out, right? Finally leave the house. Now, it's important to note where the house is located, on a mountain with nothing around it. One way in and there's one way out. There's a storm happening, right? The snowstorm. Thomas and his family are moving, by the way, across country for a teaching job for him. Why they're there, blah, blah, blah. Once the family finally leaves, after dinner and after the child has been discovered again, guess what? Charlie and Eve get alerts on their phone that the storm has had officials to close the bridge that is the only way in and out. And that's when they look at each other like, fuck, because they know what that means. The family comes back because now they have to stay the night because unfortunately they don't have anywhere else to go. Oh, Thomas keeps being like, sorry about this. Everyone goes to bed. Charlie and Eve are like chilling, having their little date night, finally getting a little time alone, kind of talking about how weird the family is. I noticed that the door, like the front door, is fucking open. Walk outside and guess who's out there? Thomas, huddled, hunched over, covering his eyes, freaking the hell out. And they're like, Charlie goes and she's like, Thomas, like, the fuck are you doing? And he snaps out of it. He says he's sorry. Should also mention that this family, their last name is Faust. So the Faust family did admit that they are very religious and they are on a electronic detox. They aren't allowed to have their phones. They bring him back inside after this little episode. He has a beer with the girls, tells them about his past a little bit more, telling them that his sister actually was his adopted sister, and his parents took her in. They found her wandering on the side of the road. She ends up thinking that the house is changing her and that she started to believe that her family was imposters. Wallpaper changed and like the furniture was changing, and the sister's name is Allison, and she kept being like, no, like that's not my name. My name's Alina. He never told them what happened to her. Eve had seen a blue light at one point outside from the inside, really far away into the woods. And that happened more in the beginning, but I forgot. Thomas goes to bed. That night, Eve wakes up. She hears something. She ends up going downstairs into the basement and she sees a person. She sees a woman. She is like low-key a demon, sounds like ghost of some sort. And she's kind of like, what the actual motherfuck is this? Tries to wake Charlie up and tell her like, hey, there's some crazy bitch in the basement. Charlie's like, that's great, I am asleep. Like, what the fuck you mean you're going back to sleep? It's just so funny to me. She's like, oh, cool, good night. She ends up just falling back asleep, and she has these dreams. Like, she keeps having these dreams of like beige walls and like a weird like interior in like this weird room. And wakes up the next morning. Guess who's gone? Charlie. She's like, what the fuck? Where did this bitch go now? She goes downstairs and she's like, she smells breakfast being cooked, and she's like, what the fuck? Guess who's making breakfast? Fucking Thomas. And she's like, why the fuck are you making breakfast in my house? Thomas is like, oh, your partner told me I could. And where the fuck is she? And he's like, oh, she went to town. She said something, she had to take care of something urgent. She didn't tell you? And Eve is like, obviously not, you know? Can't find her phone anywhere. Now she can't even call Charlie. Well, I guess I have to go find a neighbor and use their phone. Goes to a neighbor's house. It takes her forever. She brings Shiloh with her, the dog. At one point, she kind of questions like if she's at the right address, because it's like, I don't remember the numbers. It's like she's going to 3708, or she's supposed to be going to 3708, but she ends up at 3707 or something. She meets Heather. The whole scene with Heather made me feel uneasy. She seemed too eager to have Eve at her house. Shiloh really likes her. And if you remember, Shiloh, the dog, doesn't trust anyone. And he like goes right up to fucking Heather. And he's like, oh, what's up, bitch? There's like, oh, well, you know, I used to be a dog rescuer. Probably why your dog likes me so much. And I think that's kind of what led Eve to not feel super weird about going into her house, because Shiloh trusted the lady. So it's like, she finds out that Heather is the ex-babysitter of Thomas. Maybe I'll get some tea. Here's what we learned from Heather. Thomas never had a sister. His family took in a girl named Alina who went crazy and tried to kill Thomas. When she had first got to Heather's house, she did use her phone. Charlie did answer, but it was like mumbled, and there was this like womp 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 sound. Charlie couldn't recognize her at first. She sounded so confused to like be hearing from Eve at all. She stayed for tea because she wanted the tea. Well, maybe Charlie will call back. Like, why she sits with this lady for so long. She goes to leave because she's like, okay, like I've heard enough. The phone rings. Oh, in her head, the monkey, the voice, starts telling her like, run. Heather's like, aren't you gonna get that? It could be your partner. And Eve is like, you wanna know what? No. And runs away. If Thomas had this close relationship with the babysitter, Heather, why didn't he go visit her? And why didn't he stay the night with her? Why did he choose to stay the night with complete strangers? Like, yeah, it's his childhood home. Wouldn't he have felt more comfortable with not a stranger? Her and Shiloh start walking, and she ends up running into this figure in the woods that looks cold. And she's like, okay, it's really getting bad out there. The weather's getting bad. It's cold. It's freezing. It's snowing. Whoever that is, like, I would feel terrible if they died from the cold, which I thought was very uncharacteristic of her. Like, why did she care so much? She's riddled with anxiety. She has strangers in her house that won't fucking leave. But she sees a creepy person running around in the woods, and she's like, oh my God, let me save them. Odd. Follows them, ends up upon a cabin. There's all these maps too, with like notes and stuff saying like, old house, run, get out. And she sees this man. He's like old and tattered and disheveled, and she's like, I'm sorry, like, I'm sorry for invading your space. When she goes to leave, The old man literally says to her, the family, that's not what they look like. The family that's at your house, that's not what they look like. You need to get out of that house. Like, she goes to the house and the door's locked. Thomas is like, oh, well, we didn't want to leave the house open while you were gone. Like, you told me you were leaving. And he's like, well, you were still gone, so we didn't want to leave the house all unlocked. There's also this thing with the locket. Charlie, her partner, was wearing a locket with her picture in it, Eve's picture in it, the only known picture of Eve Palmer, because Eve didn't like her picture being taken. She woke up in the morning, the locket was hanging on top of the fireplace. She starts kind of confronting him, you know, get out of my house. Like, he's like, oh, I need tire chains now. Like, I'm sorry, like, I know, like, but I need tire chains. And she's like, oh my fucking God. Also says that he doesn't know what she's talking about with the locket. She goes, I'll go get the tire chains for you. If that's all you need to fucking leave, fine. She goes up into the attic. She ends up confronting herself with a demon of some sorts, it sounds like, a girl in a hospital gown. Laughing, playing peekaboo. She freaks the fuck out. Ends up falling out of the attic, knocking herself out. She wakes up, the family's all surrounding her now. Paige, the wife, is now knitting in her rocking chair that Thomas brought in because, oh, I have an injury, so I need to move my spine. Then she hears something ringing upstairs. There's this whole confrontation where the oldest son, Kai, is holding a cell phone in the upstairs study. The upstairs study had an apple tree stained glass window. She's convinced it's her phone. She sees it has the same cracked screen, the same background of Charlie and Shiloh. Well, she tries to get it out of Kai's hands. He won't give it to her. Then Shiloh gets involved, the dog. He ends up biting the child. That's when the family finally fucking leaves and they're threatening to sue. They cross paths with Charlie on the way out. And Charlie comes up to the house and she's like, what the fuck is going on? I guess Thomas's chain of events that he tells Charlie were pretty accurate to Eve's. So, because that was what Eve was worried about. She was worried Charlie wasn't going to believe her. Charlie ends up being like, no, like, I believe you. Like, we don't have to stay here. Let me just go get some stuff. And Eve is like, what do you need? Like, what could you possibly need in the house? Like, we need to get out of the house. She grabs her stuff and Eve can see her like walking through the house and like lights turning on and off and blah, blah, blah. And Eve tells her about the window because, oh, I forgot to mention that when she's attacking Kai for the phone, she notices that the window has changed. There's no apple tree anymore. It's a regular ass window. Charlie comes back down, gets in the car. There's also a really creepy moment where Eve had to go check on Shiloh after the whole altercation and she heard Shiloh whimpering in the basement. And she's almost down into the basement and then turns around and Shiloh's right behind her. And I hate shit like that. It scares me. They leave. Everything's fine. Charlie believes Eve. Eve knew that there was a gas station super close by and there was a motel super close by, but both of them seemed to be out of service. At least the motel was out of service. They come back down the hill and Charlie's like, oh, we'll stay at this motel. Eve is like, I didn't think that the hotel was even in service. And Charlie admits like she didn't think it was either. We get into the room and that's when Eve starts, her voice in her head isn't Mo anymore. It kind of switches to this like creepy, demented voice. I finished my makeup faster than I finished the video. This voice now starts telling her, Charlie's an imposter. This Charlie is not your Charlie. The other Charlie's still at the house. As they start to fall asleep, she quizzes Charlie and she's like, tell me how we met. All the answers match up, so she starts to fall asleep, has a nightmare. Something about like a labyrinth and finding Thomas's family, like portraits and Thomas's, like it's this whole oh my God. She wakes up, Charlie's phone is ringing. It's in the bathroom. She sees on the screen, it's Eve Palmer calling. And she's like, okay, so someone found my phone and they're calling Charlie's phone. She answers it, guess who it is? Charlie, saying, she's not me. That's not me. Her and Shiloh, the real ones, are back at the house. So she flees. She looks and Charlie's tattoo is gone. So Charlie had a triangle tattoo on one of her fingers and now it's not there. So that was enough for Eve to like go running. She was like, and we're done. Charlie chases after her. She's like, what the actual fuck is going on? Where are you going? Takes the truck. Guess what? Needs gas. Stops at a gas station. Of course, there's a cop there. And the cop, of course, thinks she's crazy because, oh my God, she left the motel with no fucking shoes on. Cop is like, are you good? She drives back to the house, goes in the house. She sees Allison or Alina, the ghost of Thomas's sister, and like passes out again. I don't want to play hide and seek with her because I guess that's what she's trying to do. She's covering her eyes, the ghost, because she's trying to play hide and seek because she likes to play spontaneous hide and seek. Wow, just like Jenny. She's walking around and she's like, oh my God, like I need to find Charlie and Shiloh. Ends up in the basement. The basement ends up being like a labyrinth of like hospital walls and it's like, it transforms into different things. She goes down there and she finds Charlie's kind of like almost corpse with like ants all over it. And I'm pretty sure she blacks out again. And when she comes to, she's holding a hammer. Thomas comes out of nowhere in the house. And he's like, Emma, what the hell are you doing? And she's like, who the fuck is Emma? Eve, our main character from the beginning, Eve is now Emma. So stay with me. Eve is now Emma. Emma is the sister of Thomas. Thomas, Paige, his 3 kids live in the house that she lived in with Charlie, right? They took Emma in because she had like psychotic breakdowns. They took her in. She's been on medication. She's been not taking her medication, so she's going insane again. She's holding this hammer. Thomas gets it out of her hand. Emma, Eve, has to like play along. It's at the table. Paige starts mentioning Charlie, aka Charlotte. Charlie doesn't go by Charlotte anymore. That's like long in the past. She's like, oh, your ex, Charlotte. She's like, what? Basically, for the next few chapters, we are convinced that Eve is actually Emma Faust, Thomas's sister, who he took in. A whole altercation happens because she starts freaking the hell out, saying, I'm not Emma, I'm Eve. And she ends up accidentally killing Paige with a corkscrew, the wife. Then she ends up literally grotesquely, disgustingly, graphically ripping Thomas's jaw out, which was just horrific to read, with the hammer, having Mercy letting him go, and then he comes back to get her, and then he calls her Eve, and she's like then she goes to kill him with tire chains. Then the police show up and they're like, let him go. So he survives. Obviously she's being tried for murder because she killed Paige and almost killed Thomas. Jury rules it not guilty by case of insanity. She spends all this time, we found out that all those like doc files that we're reading are her research to prove that she is who she says she is, because no one believes her. Even tries to call Charlie to be like, they think I'm someone else, and she's like, you have to let this go, Emma. You have to let this go, blah, blah, blah. She's like, what? We're just led to believe that Eve has been Emma Faust this whole time, Thomas's sister who's gone insane. Then she's in the insane asylum for the rest of her life. I'm gonna have to read it again because all the files are her research and her trying to prove her innocence and prove that she is Eve Palmer, because the police are like, well, we contacted who you said your parents were and they don't even know who the fuck you are. Thomas comes to visit her one day. He gets a whole plastic surgery, all this shit done up, so he looks like he's healing from his wounds. He's like, sorry, and like that is creepy. And then he leaves her with a manila envelope and is like, I know how important this is to you and Charlie, and then leaves. She knows what's inside. She opens the locket. It's the picture of her, the only known picture of Eve Palmer. When she called Charlie on the phone from the asylum, Charlie was like annoyed and was like, please stop contacting me. But then there's one last evidence file where it's all the names and dates are redacted and the addresses are redacted, but it's basically making us believe it's Charlie trying to find Eve. It's basically being like, my ex ran away, she like went crazy, she packed all her stuff and she left, and like, I can't find her anywhere, please help. The whole book you're believing it's Eve going slowly mad from the house and that Thomas is like the bad guy, which he is, I think. But then there's like those few chapters where I'm like, oh, so Emma's the crazy one and Thomas is innocent. But then Thomas brings her the locket with the picture, so he knows that she's Eve. But now Paige is dead for real, his wife. And then someone that's an imposter of Charlie is like mad at Eve for contacting her. I'm confused. Like, I don't know what to believe personally, and incredible. A book that will make me think for the rest of my life what the fuck is going on is 5 out of 5 for me. And if Marcus Kliewer's name is pronounced like that, that's sick too.